And welcome to another episode of the Bandit Room. My name is Charles. I'm joined here in the studio today by Mr. Caleb.
Hello.
Welcome. Across the table from me, we have our CEO, Aggie.
Hey, man. What's up?
Good. How are you?
Good. I told you I'll be here for VIP guests.
You said you'd be here for the...
You're going to make me blush.
You've been doing a little traveling recently.
That's right.
You've been back and forth Vegas a couple of times and Denver.
I think I'm done with Vegas for the rest of the year.
Done with Vegas?
Yep.
You didn't see any aliens while you were there?
I was not looking for one, but there was quite a few at the bar,
Yeah. Hey.
There could be aliens.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know. You missed that little bit. And across the table, our guest today is Mr. John Hightower. Thank you for joining us today, John.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Now, John, you are a director at Mauldin and Jenkins CPA. We know you as our SOC guy. We use you.
Well, you might want to expand on
our SOC
for people
guy.
who don't know what is a SOC guy. He's not selling socks.
I'm not selling socks.
He's always got an interesting pair of socks. He's always selling them to us here. No. So yeah, every year as a company, Span Enterprises, we get a SOC audit, and John has been the lead on that from the accounting side. How do you describe yourself? Because you work at an accounting firm, but you're not really an accountant per se. You are.
Well, technically I am, because I did get a degree in accounting. So, and that's another interesting story. But no, we specialize in information security,
right,
risk, and controls for service organizations, businesses. The firm I'm currently with, we also do that for banking regulations, those kind of things. But we really specialize more in the control of information systems.
And that's exclusively your jurisdiction. You're in the security world. You're making sure everybody's got their security protocols in place as necessary.
So is an accounting major or degree necessary for the role that you're doing right now?
No, it's not necessary. It's just kind of, I say I kind of fell into it because I was accounting hardcore. I love accounting, which is kind of weird for most folks. But yeah, I mean, because I was, all the studying I did was around financial accounting, taxes, those kind of things. But also I did a minor in information systems.
Gotcha.
And so part of that was I learned how to do, SQL. I learned how to build programs, applications, understood how networks, work and those kind of things. And so, in the traditional world of accounting, there's this thing called Meet the Firms Night. And that's where they bring all the candidates that are coming out of school, trying to get jobs, and all of the big, CPA firms. And then we've got banks and some other, that's, more for finance and those kind of things. You show up and you go around and you get to meet some people. And the normal tagline is auditor tax. Okay. I said, do you have anything else? Because I really didn't want to go into it. I liked the accounting aspect of it, but tax I definitely didn't want to do. They said, well, I don't know what to do with you. So I actually looked at some construction companies because they were looking for cost accountants. And so my background is actually in manufacturing. Before I went back to school, I get cost accounting because it's your real numbers, dollars and cents, and how you put that together for products, for cost of goods sold. So I started kind of pursuing that a little bit. I didn't like the firms that were trying to reach out to me, and but all of a sudden, just get out of the blue, one of the big four accounting firms, KPMG, they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we talked to your professor. You've got, you obviously have, great, GPA. Have you found a job yet?" And I said, "No." They said, "Well, we have a position for an IT auditor," and I was like, "What is that?" And they told me what it was about, and they had me meet with some of the folks that are IT auditors, and I said, wow, that sounds really interesting. So I said, okay, all right, I found what I need to do. So went with KPMG. They put me right on the Wachovia audit, which is now Wells Fargo now, but I was on a team of 24 IT auditors just for that one account.
Wow.
So it was good experience. Really cut my teeth. I actually cut my teeth on mainframe and AS400 first.
Some time ago.
And they still use that stuff too. But I really cut my teeth on that. But yeah, it was really good experience, and that's how I kind of got this whole thing started.
So where'd you go to college?
I went to UNC Charlotte.
Okay, gotcha.
So local.
Gotcha.
Okay, fantastic. And so would you say that the education came first, or did the career come first? Or you went to school for one thing, and then you went back and got into a different field.
Well, it was, let's just I was working a day job at a manufacturer,
Yeah.
and I was doing well with that, but I really wanted to be a musician. I was a professional musician for almost 15 years.
Okay.
Played drums.
Okay.
And when I finally met my wife-to-be, I realized we were right in the middle of cutting our first album. We were planning our first big tour.
Yeah.
Realized I was going to be in debt and not bringing in a 1 cent.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, is this really worth it?
Yeah.
And to start a marriage off like that's probably not a good idea. And so that's when I said, you know what, we need to change things. And I said, hey, and she wanted to move back to Charlotte. We were living in High Point, North Carolina at the time, and all her family's down here in the Charlotte area. So I said, okay, she wanted to move back down. So I said, let's make a deal. You want to move down to Charlotte? I'll follow you there. Let me go back to school. And I went back to school, went into accounting, and here I am now.
Fantastic.
Right on.
What was the band name?
It was the Honey James Band.
Honey James Band. All right.
It was a mythical name. Nobody was named Honey James. We
Are they still around?
I think they're still doing some things, but it just after I left, it kind of just morphed into its own thing after that.
We should have got a photo to add to the wall. We got Larry Sprinkle's movie role signed.
I didn't have any wild hair. And actually, I didn't get my first tattoo until way after I was out of music. So,
I'm assuming you have a drum set, or do you play now, or how does that work?
I still play at my church every Sunday, and I actually have gone to electronic drums, which are a lot easier to set up, a lot easier to tune. It's but if I had that kit with that level of technology in it, I would have played that when I was playing drums, because they got a nice thing. It's called a volume switch, because we'd play in venues where I could never control the sound of my drums.
Right.
So we were in these small places where they wanted to play so quiet, and it just wasn't fun to play. So I wish I would have had that a long time ago.
Probably a lot easier on your family too when you're practicing.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I got my first electronic kit when my kids were babies.
Yeah.
And I could play in a set of headphones and never wake them up.
Nice. It's funny. That's what they say. What Dave Grohl learned on pillows, isn't that what they say?
I learned on pots.
You learned on pots. Well, let's talk about your career. So you talked about starting out at KPMG. You then moved on, was it Belk after that?
No, moved on to another firm.
Gotcha.
It's called Forbes now. I think they're one of the top 8 firms, size firms. Started with a small group of IT audit professionals, and got to really, I would say, grow my career and grow my knowledge base, really well with those guys. I did not only, I did Sarbanes-Oxley audits, did, SOC audits that, back then was called something else, but also, learning about information security, and then a lot of work in the data analytics area. So using some data analytics tools to help various companies, look into the data, see what they've got, doing a lot of internal audit work.
So when you progress through these career moves, has the technology you use, has it changed at all?
Not tremendously.
No, that's what I thought, yeah.
So, I've used some tools in the past that are still out there. I would say for at least the mid-sized firms, nobody's really caught on to using these for I would say for like data analytics or business intelligence, which is kind of where a lot of the CPA firms are wanting to go to now, is to help their clients with that type of information or get them ready for that type of information. So, I've actually gone back and relearned not using those tools and going back to Power. Okay, and learning how to use that instead of using some of these, like I would call it audit specific tools.
Gotcha. So now, when you were working at KPMG and Bank of or Wachovia is a client of yours, and then now, as a smaller size company like ours, obviously we move much more faster than some of those large corporations. Does that affect what you do, or do you have to behave different when doing audits with them and us? Yeah,
you just behave differently. And the thing is the nice thing with working with, worked with KPMG, I worked with some of the the biggest banks in the world, but then working with Forbes, I got to work with some of the smallest banks, smallest companies, municipalities, and you just learn how to adjust with that. Right. It was by having that experience, it makes it easy to adjust to what the speed of the company is.
Gotcha.
So last week I was in Vegas for the AI CPA conference.
Okay. Which y'all need to be there for what y'all do.
Yeah. I was interesting.
Yeah.
Most of those folks are different when the sun sets.
Yeah, they are. They actually become human after 5 o'clock, right?
Especially in Vegas.
It's the same person you'll talk to at the show, and then you see them at the bar downstairs later on. They go, "What? Who is this guy?" The language he was using then to what he's using now is completely different. Like, where did this guy come from?
Yeah.
So interesting. Now, do you have to? You said having an accounting major is not required for what you do, but do you still maintain going to classes and all the stuff for your accounting degree?
Correct. Well, it's more for maintaining all of the certifications that I've attained since then. I did not get a CPA.
Okay.
Once I started working
Right.
and I had my first baby very shortly after that, it was hard to say, I'm going to dedicate myself to finish out my hours that I needed,
Right.
and then go sit for the CPA. So I just kind of focused on mostly the tools of the trade.
So you've got a number of special credentials. You want to go through some of those?
Sure.
So CISA.
Yeah, so probably the most important is the CISA is what it's called. It's for Certified Information Systems Auditor, and that teaches you the skills and skill sets to, I would say, to understand how you need to audit certain areas within a company, whether it be for, I would say, access, management, change management, and then also understand the risks associated with those controls, what could go wrong. Then also, to understand how do you, if you have issues within those areas, how does that relate to whether it's a report or financials, and how does that, you have to understand what the risk is beyond what the issues are.
Now, we talked a little bit about saying that, you can control our SOC audit process. What are some other security work that you perform for other companies? So obviously there's different types of SOC audits, and then there's other types of security audits that you do as well. Go into that just a little bit as to what other types of clients you service?
So other part of that too is helping, I'd say, like I said, mostly what I've been doing this with are medium, large size businesses, is helping them to assess their cybersecurity risk, using various different tools. Main thing I've been using lately is what's called FAIR, which I'm certified in as well, which is the factor analysis of information risk. That allows us to actually put dollars and cents to a risk assessment instead of just red, yellow, green, which, that helps the CFOs, the CEOs understand what is the actual risk. And so understanding, those different aspects of, helping them with, okay, here's your risk here, here's your main risk that we've seen. Let's go from there and let's create a cybersecurity strategy for you. Usually it's like a 5-year plan. And then if they need other assistance on, let's just say, technology, decisioning, so what kind of tools they want to put in place for their security, we can look at that. And what's nice about this FAIR risk assessment is we can actually go back and reassess that risk after they put in these controls and these technologies and say, yes, you have improved. Was it worth was it somewhat of a return on investment? Because most IT, it's hard to explain to CEOs and CFOs, okay, we invested all this money. How's this really helping us? Are we actually getting a return on it? And so part of that too is actually saying, okay, let's look at your other processes, like access management and those kind of. If we can put good tools from a security perspective in place and then put in more efficient processes, that's where you have to sell the value. Because if you're not getting return from some way, somehow, whether it be how long it takes to create a new user with their accounts, right, or how long does it take to terminate all the accounts for a user. Something like that, you've got to be able to do that. And that's part of the CIO's purpose is to look, okay, we've invested this. I'm actually looking at data to say, hey, it's actually improved these processes by such and such, whether it be, they always use it as customer satisfaction because that's really what they are, is the people that use their systems are their customers.
Right.
So at any point, for any organization, you go provide a 5-year plan about the security risk and the threat and what they need to do. You go back and look at it a year later or 2 years later, and if the technology has changed or the security tools have changed, becomes your responsibility to go back and change that before the 5 year is up, or how does that work?
Typically what I recommend is once we put a 5-year plan together, it should be reevaluated every year to see where you along those processes, because some of these projects could take 2-3 years to get done. But you have to reevaluate, okay, do we have any new threats
Right.
that we need to start looking at, as opposed to but typically I would say the security technology, I would say it could stay within a 5-year cycle before it starts getting like way better.
Right.
The things that's emerging now is more of machine learning, which I think is very important. Those type of technologies definitely help understand, okay, normally, let's just, for example, let's say Susie, she logs in at 8 o'clock in the morning every morning. She goes to these applications here. She goes to this server here. Okay, great. And then let's just say, that's been monitored for a month. And then it goes, and then, the process of the machine learning is to say, okay, this is the baseline for Susie. And then all of a sudden, Susie goes over to this server and logs in at 2 o'clock in the morning and starts doing weird behaviors. Well, that's what's really, behavioral based security, understanding that security. That's big help, because if you know what they normally do, then all of a sudden, then you've got, some type of indicator that something's wrong,
Right.
whether it be the person or what's in the computer.
Right. Yep. So we are bringing in some of those technology into our application, TruckLogix, the TMS for the trucking industry, about some of those behavior, but also more on the business side. Is it both for you to take this load based on how your previous loads to the same destination? Is it what having this driver or driver B? So we are doing all this. That is a part of a big plan for the next 2 years that we're bringing into TruckLogix. It's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
So when you're auditing and looking for security problems, is it primarily that kind of stuff, like internal, or do you also look for like external, like hacking threats of things? Or
So the current firm I'm with now, so we have a couple professionals that are either certified ethical hackers or working on that. And so they use, different technologies, different tools and those kind of things to look and say, okay, are there vulnerabilities on the system? And then secondly, can they be exploited based on, your particular network or your particular stack of technology? And so that's where they do that evaluation to say, hey, not looking good here. You need to fix some things, and y'all go through that every year as well,
Right.
from
Internal and external penetration.
yeah, internal and external penetration testing, and say, how good are you doing on your security controls? Can you improve? What are you going to do to fix that? And obviously, if there's critical vulnerabilities, fix those as soon as possible. So we have professionals that do that as well at our firm. But I would say that's pretty critical. And one of the things I would say, if you're doing applications, especially this holding sensitive data, anytime you do a major uplift or a major version change, that's where I would say the next step or that next level is to go with application penetration testing, where you have folks that specifically look at those applications and say, hey, you got some problems here, and this could you either have cross script stuff with SQL or whatever it is. There could be all kinds of different vulnerabilities that could be just hacked by anyone if they get online and start picking at your application.
Sure. In your experience, what would you say would be some of the most common areas that companies are not paying enough attention to in regard to their digital and information security?
Number one, and I think everybody's starting to get this now, is their backups.
Yeah.
Making sure you have immutable backups somewhere, somehow. Secondly, testing those backups to make sure you can bring it up on a system if you do have those issues. So kind of working from the disaster recovery side first as part of it, because it just seems like everybody's going to get hacked eventually. So just be prepared for it. Yeah. Second part of that is having, I would say, what I consider to be at least close to or not doing 24/7 monitoring by either somebody internal that's doing, you have a security team, which most small, medium businesses can't afford, or working with a third-party service provider that does security, where they're getting all the logs from all your computers, all your servers, everything that they're looking at, and they're looking for possible issues, and they can alert you to that, so you can start fixing those if there's an issue, or at least capture possibly a breach quicker that way.
Express Tax Exempt is now tax990.com. We changed our name to make it even easier to recognize us, but everything you know and love about Express Tax Exempt is still here. Tax990.com still provides you with easy Form 990 filing, free schedules, great customer support, and much more. Learn more at tax990.com.
what areas would you say the average person, so just on a personal level, needs to do to make sure that their personal security is up to speed in today's world?
I would say make sure use as many security features as you can that's allowed on the operating system, whether it be for Android or iOS.
Yeah.
So protecting somebody being able to pick it up and go at it. Secondly is all of your accounts, all the different, like I think I have like 150 passwords for all the accounts that I have.
Yeah.
Using some type of password manager. And having that connected to two-factor authentication.
Now,
Right.
didn't LastPass recently have a security event?
Yes, they did.
So,
Yes,
so
they did.
describe that one, because wasn't that a pretty serious?
Well, I don't have all the details on
Yeah.
that one. I didn't spend a whole lot, but what I understand is that basically they got into the pre-production area.
Okay.
So, so all I know is I at the time I had a LastPass.
Yeah.
And I changed every single password.
Yeah. Just the old-fashioned changing every single one.
Changing every single one, including the master password for that. So and that's one thing that folks can do too is, and LastPass has actually got a new feature now where they can do dark web monitoring. So for all your email addresses,
Right.
account names, it'll actually look through and see if it was part of a breach.
Right.
Similar to Emma Pwned.
Yeah.
Where you can look up, email addresses.
Gotcha.
That's what I used to do is I would just, look up whether or not my email address was in some type of breach. And I found, I usually find one or two that nobody notified me on.
Right.
Like LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I wasn't notified. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm better to go change that password. So it's good to just check I call security, health.
Yeah.
At least once every month or once every quarter.
Like a security cleanse.
Yeah.
We need to trademark that name,
There we go.
Charles.
Security.
Yeah, so I would do that.
Set it up. That's its own
and,
product.
And then it's just about being smart with where you go on the internet.
Right.
But we've done some things at my house to kind of help that. So I put in my own personal firewall, which was most of those products are very easy to set up now.
Yeah.
And use those to the because I've got kids and they're curious, and so did some blocking of certain website types.
Yeah.
And then figured out that my sons were smart enough to actually break that or jailbreak out of that.
boy.
So putting for kids, I would recommend putting on mobile device management type software on there to help see what the activity is.
Gotcha.
And they've got some things out there now where they actually can monitor text message and see if they possibly see bullying or other types of sketchy behavior. Like I said, I hate, I'm a privacy technologist, but the problem is that sometimes you still have to monitor your kids and give them some good ways and I call it policies on how to handle being online.
Yeah.
And I don't let my kids do social media.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. The rule is they didn't get their first phones till they were 12.
Right.
But they're not going to get social media until they're 18 in college.
Yeah, that seems to be what most of the studies are indicating, is that the big differences you're seeing with the emotional health of people growing up today is the difference of growing through puberty with social media, and previous generations not having that. They're not seeing the same kind of the emotional health effects of that.
I mean, well, they've got a lot of scientists out there and they're talking about it's all about the dopamine hits.
Yep.
And there's, and
It's a drug, yeah.
And if you can't control that and keep that kind of, especially with all the other things that are going on when you're growing up at that age, you can really kind of mess up what is real and what is not real that feels good to them.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. So what's new in the world of SOC 2? When is it going to become SOC 3?
SOC 3 is just
There might be a SOC 3.
We've got they've done AICP has put out a SOC for cybersecurity, which is more focused on the management. And it actually just expands on some of the things we're already doing for SOC 2, which is based around mostly security controls. So it kind of expands it out a little bit further, and it's more geared, I would say, towards larger organizations that have a large security footprint within the company. And so that's one thing. So SOC 3 is just a continuation of the SOC 2, where it allows you to kind of tell your customers before you allow them to have that SOC 2 report, which actually is, has, I would say sensitive information in there.
Right.
You can tell them, hey, here's the opinion from the CPA firm. They look good. Here's kind of the overview of what we're doing here, and it allows you to kind of give that to them before you actually sign a contract with them. So it's more for marketing purposes.
Gotcha. Now, do you have any thoughts or opinions regarding cybersecurity that would be considered fringe?
Okay,
I believe you had alluded to something about that.
Well, so I was the director of information security at Belk for a while, and kind of just in the middle of that stint there, we went through what was called the WannaCry ransomware, and we had, I think, close to, I want to say it was close to 15,000 computers we had to deal with, all Windows, a lot of it Windows based. And luckily, the operations team and the security team worked really well. I think we got everything locked down within a couple of weeks. We had some stragglers that wasn't plugged into the network, those laptops and those things, but we got it calmed down pretty quick. But I kind of really, I went through that whole, I call it crisis mode, where everybody's going through that, and I just kind of followed it and was looking at, see what's happening, and saw where all these hospitals and fire stations, all the public stuff that was getting locked down and having got all kinds of issues, but they were demanding Bitcoin. So I kind of monitored it, and I was like, I think it was like 3 or 4 months afterwards, just kind of started looking for articles and those kind of things, and some people started saying, hey, it looks like really all that was collected during that whole entire crisis, I think it was like a little bit over $50,000. From the Bitcoin itself, where they actually went and got it. And I was like, well, that's strange. I said, why would they do all this, just for...
Such a mess.
Because, they're asking for money, but, they created chaos. And sometimes that's what, hacktivists do that, right? Not so much, but most criminals, they want money. So, and they could have really, really done well with this. Well, I was looking at, Bitcoin and... saw the rise of the price, rise of the price, rise of the price, rise of the price. Because guess what?
You're talking, how many years ago was this?
This was 2017, 18, I think it was.
Yeah.
So they were, but I saw the price rise and rise after this, issue came out with this ransomware, and I said, maybe we're not looking at it the right way. Maybe what this whole thing was to drive the price of Bitcoin up.
Oh,
because now everybody was getting it. Municipalities, banks, private citizens, everybody was starting to get that coin because they needed it in case they got ransomware. So I think the whole scam was not to collect from the ones they infected. I think they already had enough Bitcoin they had already invested in, see the price go up, and then sell it totally off the, because they could do it with nobody knowing.
Interesting.
Right.
And so I think that's how they probably made them millionaires. So just a thought.
That's curious.
That's one of my fringe opinions.
Well, I've always wondered if, because that typically is the way they go with these ransomware things, is they demand some kind of cryptocurrency. But another thing that always kind of sticks out on the other side is that cryptocurrency is very trackable, though. Like Bitcoin transactions anyway, you can see the origination and where it goes and things like that. So if somebody has the transaction that they paid to somebody, they can find that address to some degree. That's how these government entities have been able to reverse some of these transactions that have happened.
Yeah, but for the most part, if there was a separate wallet, separate things that we weren't collecting from, it's hard to really put the two and two together. There's always going to be Eastern European countries and Russia and scammers that come out of there. That's some of the heavier crews that work those out, and there's only so much you can really do. If they're doing just normal trading or normal selling, you can't, unless you've got a sting on them. It's going to be hard for them to figure that out. So I think they were able to at least obfuscate a little bit of what they were doing by maybe having separate wallets separated from what they were doing the crime stuff with.
Gotcha.
Charles, are you still into crypto?
I'm interested in it. Yes. I what are your thoughts? So do you think it's all a scam, or do you think there's a legit technology to it?
Well, I think there are some legit technologies connected to it. I've actually seen where a client, they actually did a lot of their accounts payable. Yeah. Now, granted, you got to put in really good controls, right? Because you don't want somebody walking off with their wallet, their business wallet, right? And then also you need to have what I call, two layer of approval, for paying for something, those kind of things like that, right? But what I'm more interested in is a little bit more where smart contracts are concerned, which could make help with processes from the standpoint of streamlining accounts payable. So once that say somebody puts in a smart contract, says we want 500 widgets,
Right.
we want it delivered here at this factory across the world. Want it delivered by a certain date, or there's penalties, So once that person scans that into their warehouse management system, it releases, it says, hey, we've got it. It runs out the blockchain. It says, hey, that contract is fulfilled, pay them. You get to run out of a lot of middle people, right? And you could do large transactions without having to go through. But that's the only thing I can see right now as being a benefit to businesses so much. But
also the speed of settlement.
The speed of settlement, right?
Because you with your banking history, you see how every single transaction that gets sent out, it's never like officially cleared for days.
Correct.
Whereas with cryptocurrency, the transaction is the settlement for the most part.
I think it's just it depends on the application. I think nowadays it's more of an investment vehicle.
Yeah.
So I until somebody can show me that there's a lot more better things besides privacy, because there are some good privacy, privacy coins, those kind of things. I just, from a business standpoint, I just don't see everything really maturing for a while, and especially now that
we're still early.
Well, we're still early, and then also you've got the Fed and those they're trying to cope with that as well and come up with their own digital currency, which technically we already live in a digital currency world. I mean, I don't even carry cash that often anymore. It's just it's just a little bit different because they can do a lot more trackable things, which that's what makes me nervous a little bit.
Yeah, because you don't want a little too much government involvement, and then you can start
That's
limiting
that's
what
the
you
nice
can
thing
actually
about
spend your money on.
cash. Cash is anonymous. Cash is anonymous.
That's true. Fantastic. Awesome. So let's get into some of your hobbies now. So you talked about drumming. So you're
He's
drummer.
got hobbies more than just drumming?
More than drumming,
What?
yeah, because you saw his car out front.
I did see his
He
car,
did a lot
yes.
of the customization himself on
What?
that, he said, yeah.
All right, well, let's
So
talk
let's
about
talk about it. Yeah. So,
Definitely into muscle cars now.
so what are you driving now?
It is a 2019 Dodge Challenger TA 392.
Gotcha.
Nice.
And you got that in 2020, you said?
Yeah, I luckily I got it right off the showroom floor. Was sitting on the showroom floor right at the end of 2019, so they got a really good deal on it.
Okay.
Nice.
Because not many people were going to showrooms at that time.
Right. That is peak COVID,
Yeah.
Peak COVID.
All right.
Nice.
And tell us about the work you did.
I've had, I didn't get underneath the car and throw wrenches at it, but definitely did some, aerodynamics additions I did myself. But then I learned how to actually put vinyl on a car.
Okay.
It took a lot of trial and error. It took a lot of mistakes and me saying a lot of 4-letter words, especially when you put a big panel up for a whole door, and then all of a sudden you get a wrinkle you just can't get out of it. So that I call it my COVID project because I was stuck at home, pretty much full time, and so learning how to do that, showed me I could learn something new, and make something cool out of it. So do a lot of customizations. Did the stripes, did the decals, a lot of custom, I would say, designs for some of these decals. So had a good time with that. I haven't been doing a whole lot so far. So this past year, but that and I would say probably the other thing that takes up most of my time is golf.
Okay. All right.
I should have noticed that with his golf shirt on. He's ready to go now.
Don't tell my boss.
Where do you go golf here locally?
So I'm a member at Rolling Hills down in Monroe, North Carolina. Been there for I think about 7 or 8 years now. Before that, I was just kind of all over the place.
Gotcha.
Nice. How often do you play?
I try to play at least once a week. I've been very busy this year with the transition for a new job, and also been bought a house, fixing that up, selling a house.
Exciting.
So this year's recently. So so it's going to be. I probably won't get to play a lot more until getting to probably the July time frame. So, but normally before that, I usually played sometimes 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Dude, I know some people who golf every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I just got off a golf vacation not too long ago, and we played 2 rounds a day and one round on each bookend for 4 days. And by the time we got to that last day, I was like, I don't want to play anymore.
Where was it?
It was up in West Virginia.
West Virginia. Okay, interesting.
Like we went to Vegas, and Adam and Jason, they shipped the clubs up there.
Oh, did they?
They're golfing every day.
Yeah.
I love Nevada golfing.
Oh, yeah. Do you know the Ackermans? Do you know Jason and Adam Ackerman?
Yeah.
So you've been to Nevada for golfing before?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got some
I've been
great pictures.
to Shadow Creek.
You got to know somebody to play there.
They just play. It was $1,000 a round.
Oh, okay. Wow. Well, I don't spend that much on golf for rounds. I take that back. I did spend that much at TPC Sawgrass.
Okay.
Now, it wasn't the round itself was that much, but everything that I bought, including the $35 sandwich at the turn. I think it was an $8 beer too.
Wow.
It's just like a little Michelob.
Yeah.
I think all in all, I think I spent $1,000 there, but that was worth it.
They're like, you should go golf. I'm not that good. I play once a year. I'm really not spending $1,000 a round.
Do a round at Topgolf or something like that. I don't know. All right. So was that one of your favorite rounds that you've played, or do you have a favorite golf? That
was one of my favorites. I've got to play Pinehurst No. 2 several times, which is a U.S. Open golf course. We played Wolf Creek in Mesquite, Nevada, which, as far as just the visuals, it was like playing a video game. It's kind of, I would say, similar to Shadow Creek, but that was one of my favorite rounds too, and I played really well that day. So I'll show you some pictures, man. It is it's like playing a video game.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
I have no idea how these guys that I know, they go golf every day 4 hours in the middle of the day.
Right.
I have no idea how they do it.
I mean,
if you find out, let me know.
They're just transitioning to their next career is all it is there?
No, dude. You spend a lot of money playing every day.
I mean, they go to work dressed in golf clothes. So the moment they get the chance, boom, they're out of there.
Well, that's one thing I learned to do is I dress golf ready, just in case if a client gives me a call and it's an emergency. We got to go play an emergency 9. I go, I'm already dressed. Okay, I'll meet you at 4:00. We'll go play 9 holes just to make sure you stay sane.
You can't get much more comfortable than golf clothes, though. I mean,
especially now because it's all performance wear, so it's nice and breathable.
Right.
When I worked in banks a lot, it was suit all the time, and I'm like, it felt like I was being strangled every single day. But of course, I think banks have gotten a little bit looser with their dress policy now.
Well,
so.
you don't even have to come in anymore.
For a lot of them, yeah, exactly.
We should start dressing like Larry Sprinkle from the 80s.
Yeah, tracksuits.
Tracksuits with no shirt underneath, showing off the chest hair.
That's right.
I like that.
Right. Now, you have a family. Do you have teaching your kids to play or anything like that?
I tried.
Yeah. Not working out?
No. One of them is doing track.
Yeah.
Runs 200, 400 and does shot put.
Yeah.
The other one stopped doing track because the oldest one, because he really loves theater now.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool.
So he's done a couple productions. He's actually, this week he's on the tech team, just so it's not so, I think he only has to be there for like 3 hours a day for, they're doing a production of Frozen at his school. So
nice.
Big one.
So he's loving that.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, I bring this very often. Charles is very involved in our local community theater.
Oh, yeah?
I do a little bit with the local community theater here in Rock Hill. But, I was involved in that growing up, too, in high school and college and things like that. That was my outlet of choice. I wasn't hitting the links.
The links, Charles.
Well, the good thing is,
what they say?
At least, like my oldest son, he sings in the chorus. And then my youngest, he actually started early for marching band. They started in 8th grade, which we didn't do that when I was growing up. It was 9th grade. But he plays mellophone, and he loves it. So so at least we share that music piece of it.
Is your wife musical as well?
Not really.
Not really?
No.
Okay. Didn't know if it was a whole family thing or not.
It wasn't a whole family thing. We're definitely not going to start up the Partridge Family.
Like a family
No.
Awesome. Excellent.
Here comes the lightning round. Or speed round. Faster round. Anyway, we're going to ask the guest a bunch of quicker questions. Here we go.
What's something that you spend too much money on?
Golf.
We covered that.
Covered
that.
Growing up, did you have a dream job, and is that still true?
I would say musician was my final dream job, because that carried in from high school all the way into to my 20s. But obviously, I found something else that paid the bills a little better.
Nice. Would you say you have a role model or models?
Bobby Jones. You might want to ask why. If you saw the movie Stroke of Genius, I've been following his career, and actually I've read a lot of things about him, but he just seemed like a real gentleman. And the things that he achieved and how he struggled for it through health issues. And
If you had a TV show or movie about your life, what actor would play you?
what's the creator of Family Guy?
Seth MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane. Yeah. I would probably want him to do it. Because I'm a real goofball. Because I think that's how I was able to attract my wife, because I was just so funny and I know it sounds weird for somebody who works at a CPA firm, but basically I'm the 5 o'clock guy.
Right.
I know when to be serious though, but I would like him because he can do all kind of funny voices too, and that's one of the things I've done since I was little is mimic
nice
cartoon voices and I do some Family Guy voices too, but I won't do them here.
After 5 o'clock.
After 5 o'clock and a couple of brandies.
A couple more. What's the worst advice you've ever received?
The worst advice I ever got was working in my first big career job was to not be yourself, to be very professional, and everything's very serious, and don't act like a human, right? So, and that actually hurt me, because I didn't grow relationships within the company I was working with. And once I realized that and went to my next company, and I said, you know what, I'm going to be myself. How did I get here? Being myself. And so as soon as I did that, that's when everything really got good for me. And it made my work life, or work way better.
What's something in your industry that you consider underrated?
I think people don't really understand how much detail and review we put into our work to make sure it meets all the standards, make sure it meets not only the guiding standards like AICPA and these other areas, but we really do dot our I's and cross our T's when it comes to the level of review and making sure it's as good as possible. Plus, we have auditors get audited as well. So we have peer reviews that come in and look at our work and say, did you do it right?
Gotcha.
So that's probably one thing that's very underrated and don't not understand how the sausage is made, so to speak. There's a lot of stuff in the background that you don't see, and that you think we come in, we do some screenshots, and we take down some notes, and and all of a sudden a report appears.
Right.
There's a lot more behind that.
If you could meet anyone, past or present, who would it be?
I'm going to say George Washington.
Okay. Any questions right off the bat you would have for him?
I would just want him to tell me how did he get through all this? With all the defeats. I mean, he had tons of defeats. He had to beg his soldiers to stay for like 30 more days, I think it was. And I also I would love him to retell the story of him praying in the woods and the Quaker coming to help. And because the Quaker, that they asked for food and some other things like that, he wasn't going to help because he didn't believe in the war. And the fact that just by showing his devotion to what he was doing, and said, yes, soldiers can, be also spiritual as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for having us.
It was fun. Yeah.
Thanks.
And hey, good luck with your new job. When do you start? Are you already started?
I've already started.
Already started. Well,
And we're working on getting you signed on over the next week or two.
all right. Awesome.
We'll
Thank you
sign
so
those
much.
docs. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bandit Room is a production of Span Enterprises, located in sunny Rock Hill, South Carolina. We've been developing, supporting, and growing successful IRS e-filing and business management solutions since 2010. Go to spanenterprises.com now to learn more.
The views and opinions expressed in the Bandit Room are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect or state the opinions of Span Enterprises. No information should be considered as tax, legal, or other professional advice.